How are you?
I am doing all right. How are you?
I'm doing just fine today. It's good to finally connect with you.
I know.
Yeah, let me kind of give the audience kind of a full introduction for you, and then we'll chat. So joining me today is Amanda Gish. She's voiced a ton of roles. I was looking at your credits, and there's just so many. But I'll just name a few here. Kinoko in My Hero Academia, of
Yeah.
course. Witch in Goblin Slayer, Hop in Dragon Ball Super, Japanese Black Bear in Kimono Friends. My
Yes.
friends are really into that show, so I want to mention that. So, and
It's
there are
such
so
a
many
first
more,
show.
and there are so many more. So, welcome, Amanda. Glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Very good. So, we'll be chatting here, but everyone, if you have any questions for Amanda, I will try to remember to check this question block down here, and then try to toss some of those up from time to time. So please put your questions there. If you put them in a chat, I might see them, but I may not. So um, we will get started today. So before we get started, or as we're getting started, I noticed on Twitter just a few months ago that you dropped the news of your marriage. So congratulations.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Super exciting.
Yes, it is. It is. Yeah, it's been a fun ride. uh, yeah, ups and downs, but it's definitely it's worth it. So
Yeah, I mean, that's how relationships are, right? Ups
exactly.
and downs, right? And I guess that's probably the most exciting thing going on with you right now. But there's all sorts of you've got all sorts of things going on. Like one of the things that I really like about your accounts are how you just have all these varied things that you're working on, like different kind of projects, different interests that you have, and I want to talk about that as we go along. But let's talk anime first. Um,
Yeah. I feel like that is the common like thing within my accounts. Even though I work on everything, like I try to tie it back to like anime and stuff because I love anime. So
yeah, I want to talk about kind of your interest in that, but the I, I I don't know, but I imagine for a voice actor, it might be kind of difficult to think about what kind of content to put up there, right?
it
Um,
is it. That's one thing that I feel like I struggle with. As far as like, well, do the people want like voice actor tips and tricks? Because I feel like I'm still learning. You know what I mean? So I um but or like I don't know because I love cosplaying and stuff too, so I'm like, all right, I don't know, because I have this love that's just kind of like all around, and I'm like, ah, I it's so hard to like pin down like what people want to see. And I know like they're probably interested or follow me because of like the voice acting, so I try to put stuff like that up, but I'm also really picky like how my feed looks. Like I want it to be like aesthetic because I'm just I don't know, my brain is crazy.
I get that feeling like seeing your feed that that struggle that some voice actors would have to what kind of content to put up. I feel like you would probably be posting content even if you weren't a voice actor. You have so many different interests.
Yeah, probably would. So I feel like I almost be, except for like the roles that I do, I feel like I would love, I'd probably be doing almost the same type of thing. Just, putting little voice clips and stuff in there as well. So
Well, and how did your journey begin? I mean, were you a fan that got into voice acting, or were you already acting and then kind of started trying out for voice acting roles? How did that really work for you?
right. That's a really good question. So I feel like it's kind of both. So ever since I started doing theater when I was really young, and I remember telling my parents that, oh, I want to be an actor. Like I wanted to be an actor when I grew up. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. And so like that never changed. And so when I got into high school, like that's like when my hardcore, I feel like, training kind of started, and like musical theater actually became my passion. Um, and I think like one of my favorite shows that I've ever been in was Little Shop of Horrors. Like I I was Audrey in that, and it was
Oh,
just yeah.
that's
And
such a
Oh, it's so good. And the stage show is different than the movie. So if you go watch the movie, the ending's going to be completely different. I won't spoil it in case anybody wants to watch both, but I mean they're both amazing. And so once I got into college, I almost felt like so so a fun fact, my dad was my principal in high school. My senior year was like awesome. I was like a cheerleader. I was doing all the theater. I was doing show choir. I mean, I was like doing everything and I felt like that I was supposed to be doing. And and so I had I guess I'm one of the few because like literally everybody I talked to was like, oh, high school. I loved high school. High school was my jam. Um, thank you. Um, but when I got into college, it like hit me that like I'm nobody. They don't care who my dad was. They don't care what I did, what I hadn't done. So I'm like, and I lost the sense of like who I was. I felt like, and I turned to anime during that. And
Mm,
so I had originally I was a musical theater major. I kind of switched to just plain theater because I got a vocal scholarship for the school that I went to, but they didn't actually have musical theater. So I decided to take the theater and the vocal scholarship, and then just keep those combined without doing the musical theaters and just stick to acting. So like I literally like lost my passion for a little bit because I fell into like this weird depression. I didn't know who I was. I found, like I said, I found anime. I mean, I had found it earlier, Pokemon and Sailor Moon and stuff, but it didn't like hit me like what it was, and that
right.
it what at that time like not mainstream. I got
Hmm.
bullied for it in high school for liking Pokemon. I mean, all this kind of stuff, but and now it's like, oh well, you're cool if you like this, and it's so popular. But
Right.
it hit me when I was watching adult. I was in a sorority and everything, and I decided instead I wasn't a big partier. I sat in my dorm and watched the anime. Like that's what I did. So it hit me one night when I was watching Adult Swim. I think I was watching either like Inuyasha or Case Closed at the time, and I was like, voice acting is acting. Like it hit me. And I don't know
Mm,
why I didn't like see it before then because I was never into live action stuff. I always loved cartoons and video games and things like that, but it never hit me that like that's acting behind, the animation. And so
right.
so it piqued my interest when I was in college. And I kind of like kept that all the way through. And then after college, I actually got a job at a radio station. And when I started doing like more research, I found out that like there was a studio in Dallas. And I was like, oh, okay. How do I do this? Like, I don't even know what to do because I feel like the internet now definitely has a lot more information on that kind of stuff versus like back in 2007. So because it wasn't a big thing, anime's huge now, so I feel like there's definitely a more accessible information. But I since I was worked at a radio station, I was like, oh, let me just like go in here and record like a little demo. It wasn't good, but it was like professional. It was at a radio station. So I sent it in, and I think 2 years later they like emailed me. I was like, oh, oh, I forgot about this. But I mean, but by then I was just like deep into anime. Like
Mm,
that's all I wanted to do. That's all I wanted to watch. I didn't care about like Western animation because all the good ones were gone.
mhm.
Like there was no more Hey Arnold. There was no more like Doug and things. And that was what I grew up on, and that's what like I held to, like going into college and things. So I like I said, I was just like deep into all this. Not that it was a bad thing. I was finally finding a sense of who I was again because I realized when I wasn't, following my passion, I wasn't doing basically what I felt like God wanted me to do. You do lose a sense of who you are. So,
Mhm.
so I auditioned. I didn't get anything. I'm very dyslexic and cold reading. It took a lot for me to learn how to do.
Mm.
8 years later, I decided to like take some classes, and I finally got called in to do wall sessions. So it was literally, it took me from college, all, 10 years maybe to even like put my foot like just in the door. And and I had an acting agent mostly for like on camera stuff, and sometimes I get some stuff through him, sometimes I don't, just more kind of like industrial commercial stuff that you're just not going to see. But it ignited the passion again. But it can also be a curse, because it's like, oh well, you got a taste of your passion, and
Mm-hmm.
it's literally up to like the directors to, if they want to like cast you or not. And if they don't, then you can go through this dry period and you're like, am I doing, like, what am I supposed to be doing right now? And I go through those, and it's I feel like I wanted to start this panel called the VO Woes, and just kind of like, yeah, I love what I do, but like here's the drawback of like doing this, or trying to make this like what you're going towards. And it's really tough. It is. It puts a lot of emotional strain on you, if even like one person just like, hey, I really love what you did right here, like I did my job. Like that's what I love to do.
That's awesome. Thank you for being so transparent. In speaking of, kind of struggles with when you have like dry spells in getting cast. I appreciate how you kind of share some of that on your account. And
Absolutely. I mean, obviously I don't want to be a downer all the time, but it is something that I feel like we need to be a little more real. And but also, like, I like pretty things. I like seeing pretty things on Instagram. Who doesn't? So but I think there's a way to show the beautiful, but still be like transparent and real.
yeah, yeah, to have kind of that balance, because if you're, I forget what it's called, but when you're on Facebook and all your friends are only showing the good side of life, and then you start,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, why am I living that kind of life when,
Exactly.
reality is obviously different. We can see every moment of their days.
Right, right.
So, yeah, no, that's really interesting. I had no idea about you, because I was wondering, because it's over the last few years, last 5 years or so, where you just done so many different roles, and I was wondering what, that kind of transition between college and then what happened, and you were waiting.
Mm-hmm. Basically, yeah. I mean, it took a long time. It's, I try to make plans. I try to like, say, well, this by this time, and then it's always like, no, no, like just be patient, because I think that's always something that I struggled with, was patience. And so I feel like that's the lesson I'm always learning.
Those of us who struggle with patience, sometimes that's where we're getting tested, right?
Exactly.
Also, I really thought it was interesting what you just said about kind of your college years, because when I've interviewed voice actors before, um, you're, how should I say this? You're kind of in my generation, and most of the voice actors I've been speaking with are either older than me by a lot, or a lot younger than me.
Right.
And I think a lot of us somewhere around our age get like your experience, where when we get to college, like there's the people that are nose to the grindstone, and everyone can do that, right? But also partiers, and then those of us who just wanted to watch anime.
Man, that was me. I'm like, I don't like, I was like, I'm not going to underage drink. Like, that's just not my thing. So, so I didn't like being around that. People were dumb. People, it put me in anxiety, and I felt like I didn't need that in my life. So,
Hmm. What were I definitely, yeah, I get that. All we go to parties every weekend, and I was like, I guess I'll go, but really, I just want to watch Adult Swim, you know.
exactly. I'm like, a new episode of Inuyasha is on. Like, I need to know if Sango, gets together with him. and stuff
Right.
like that. So yeah.
So you mentioned Inuyasha. What were some of those earlier anime also that kind of inspired you or that you were really into?
Absolutely. So, Inuyasha and Case Closed, which it was the Funimation dub at the time, that for some reason, so I'm a huge noir detective fan. Like, I love that kind of feel, the darkness. And I felt like that anime put, it kind of embodied that, but it was also had some light moments as well. And for some reason, I just fell in love with the voice acting in the English in Case Closed. And I just felt like it was cast and directed so well. And that was one of the main ones that inspired me. Also, another one that I believe, they don't have the rights to anymore is the Funimation Shin-Chan. Uh, so I had no idea that I say we as an American localization changed that show from its original state. It's a kids show in Asia, and I had no idea. Like, I remember going to like Korea, and they had all these like kids Shin-Chan stuff, and I was like, do they know what we did to this show? Because I have a completely different experience, and it's good. The writing is
Mhm.
amazing, and it's hard to find right now. I think you can find some DVDs, but they're very, very expensive because it's out of print. But that's another one that really inspired me. That it was just like fast paced. The acting was the acting timing was just so amazing, and I was like, I want to do this. Like, have there's this medium that I love because by that time I was like, I wanted to be a movie star, but like I said, at that time I was just like, Hollywood, I don't think it's for me. I don't think it's for this Texas girl. So um yeah, so I just felt like because anime just kind of helped me through a very dark time in my life. So it's something that I just wanted to be a part of, and just lends like it's a part of me, so I want to be a part of it.
Mhm. I wonder what it is that kind of uh, what it is about anime that kind of draws us to it for those of us who are maybe dealing with, depression or anxiety or like you said, that's, that transition you had from kind of being top of the world to bottom, feeling that, what is it that draws us to anime?
And that's one thing that I tried to figure out when I went to grad school. So I ended up, so I was like, I had like speech communications and theater is what I studied like in college. And then when I went to grad school, I decided to like communication theory because I was just like, I need more time to figure out my life. So I was like, okay, let's go to grad school.
Yeah.
And so I did my research over anime and
Mm,
did like, identification theories. I did, uses and gratification theories, and basically trying to find out like why people are so attracted to these characters. I'm not a very good researcher, so I never actually found out the answer, but it was like a very interesting, obviously with my research, I found more information of just especially like how it all started, like over in Japan, and like the otaku culture over there and how it was coming over here and like starting to be like more known. Like people who don't even know anime, like they know Dragon Ball Z, they know what that is. Another one that really inspired me was Cowboy Bebop. I it's just it's was so, I don't know, it has also that, I don't know if you're a fan of like Firefly, the
yeah.
faction, but it has like a very, well, I guess Firefly has more of a Cowboy Bebop flair because Cowboy Bebop was first.
Yeah.
But it was just like something that like, well, I never would have put cowboys in space, but it worked. And I just
Hmm.
feel like they while yes, there is the same like tropes in anime. You're like, well, it's anime. Yep, there's this. I feel like it can still like really surprise you more than like Western um,
Hmm.
culture, or not culture, but like Western, just like TV in
Hmm.
general. feel like I get more shock, even though, yeah, we know all the tropes. We know, and granted, there's plenty of anime out there that just follows the same, thing. But I feel more often than not, we get more surprised with anime.
Mm, I think that's a good point, and Cowboy Bebop is a really good example. That's a yeah, gosh. Back in the early days of the internet, when I had my like profile picture, it was always Spike. That was my profile picture everywhere. He was so cool. What a cool show, and something that was just it's like a masterpiece, right? Like every episode.
Mm-hmm. And it's
Um,
so weird because I feel like if that was done in Western culture, I feel like I wouldn't have liked Faye. Ed would have got on my nerves. But like
mhm,
but the way it was approached in just like anime culture, I guess, I loved Faye. I loved Ed. I loved everything about this. And Spike, he's not the most like well liked hero as far
mhm,
as like, I mean, he's kind of seems selfish, he's a loner, like, but they wrote him so well that you just wanted him to win.
mhm. Yeah, and you're right. It works in animation and it works in anime. I'm not gonna. Someone mentioned the Netflix Cowboy Bebop. I'm not gonna hate on it. I
I will.
oh god. Well, but
um
one thing I notice is that they tried to imitate. They try to imitate it in some ways, and one thing is it didn't transfer to that medium.
right, so they tried to imitate it and make it different at the same time. If you're going to imitate it like a lot of Japanese live action stuff, like
Hmm.
they are basically in cosplay and do the anime. And then if you're going to try to make it different but you're trying to imitate it, like, I think that's where their failure was.
Yeah.
So I like, Faye was not likable to me. I didn't care about Spike for some reason, and I forget his name, but I love him as an act. You know what I mean? It's like I
Oh,
love, yeah. And so I'm like, I know he's a good actor, so I feel like it was a lot of direction. They changed some characters and didn't change some characters. So yeah, it just
okay.
it didn't work for me.
As long as we're talking about it,
Yeah, go ahead.
I feel like so yeah, I got to review it before it came out, and I just spent so much time writing my review because I was pretty upset by the series, and I felt like there was a lot of people in it that love Cowboy Bebop, especially if you look at like the set design and things like that.
Right.
But I kind of felt like maybe the director, producers, I'm not sure who, were really more in love with the idea of, hey, this is a cool Japanese property without really understanding what was cool about it, or maybe also having the ability to create something that's, not just transferring that property over to live action, but Cowboy Bebop, one of the reasons why it's so cool is it's talking about pop culture, right? It's all about pop culture, and
Right.
they didn't refer to pop culture at all in like 10 episodes.
Right. And I mean, I feel like they tried to put too much of Western influence into it, and
Hmm.
Cowboy Bebop is not the anime to do that.
Hmm.
With it, it is its own world, but it felt forced. Like the beginning of the first episode, I was like, okay,
Oh, like I
and
think I've gotten it.
yeah, and then it was just like, and I was like,
No, I know you have a connection to Faye because you've cosplayed her.
I do cosplay her, and she is just, I had this group cosplay for a while too. It was like Faye, and then I had a friend who did Spike, and then I had
Oh,
Ed, and it was so much fun, and I loved going to conventions, and I remember wearing it to like a Comic Con, because usually, well, I feel like back then, I guess like 2016 maybe, um I felt like anime stuff was not as popular at comic conventions. But like we were just like, I'm tired of wearing like my Harley Quinn or my I don't know, Black Canary. So let's just do Cowboy Bebop. And we did, and it was the biggest hit. We could not walk anywhere without people just be like, can I get a picture? Can I get a picture? So I was like, all right, this is cool. Like I didn't expect like people to just like be into that, but like I feel like it's only grown like since then, just the
Hmm.
influence of anime in general.
That's exploding. It felt like you got in right at the time where people were finally appreciating it, and right before it became present.
Right, right.
So how did you get into cosplay? How did that all happen?
So I got into cosplay because I felt like there was this gap that I was trying to bridge between my theater life and trying to get into voice acting. And there were so many characters that I just like loved. I think or Misa Amane or Amane Misa, depending on however
Hmm.
you say it, from Death Note was my very, very first cosplay that I ever did. And so, like I said, it was like this. Well, I miss being on stage. I miss doing my theater on stage, and I miss dressing up and being a character. So I was like, because Halloween was always my favorite holiday. Not Christmas, not anything like that. Halloween is just my favorite holiday because I love just like dressing up and like having a persona and being somebody different. And so, being able to bridge that gap of like, okay, well, I'm this character, and I'm dressing like them, and in a sense, you're kind of like acting as well. I was like, well, if I can't be them like in the voice, like maybe I can be them, like look like. And then when I started going to conventions and things like that, like I went and I just like to walk around in cosplay because it was acceptable there. I feel like now, like I've gone to places and I see people walking around. I was like, oh my gosh, is it acceptable now? Like, you know what I mean? But back when, like, you didn't do that. So, going to be able to go into a convention and being recognized and having a love for a character, like sharing with like complete strangers a love for like a character in a show was just so cool to me. And of course, like being doing like my masters and stuff of like, you know, identification theories and things like that. I'm like, this is so interesting. Like we're all like we identify with each other because we have this love for anime. And it still, I mean, it still is a niche following, but it's just like you just don't see it. And so the fact that people could come together and appreciate this was just so cool to me.
So I have a friend who used to I started doing anime blogging more than 10 years ago, and he was doing it too, but he was also in higher education
Mm-hmm.
and studies about anime. And one of the things he came up with, or I don't think he came up with it, but he was researching, was the idea of conventions being a pilgrimage
Mm-hmm.
for anime fans. I kind of think you're talking about where, there's this gathering and this identification with each other and with these characters. I just think it's really fascinating what's
Yeah.
happening, even as it grows so much. I'm gonna pull up one of these questions
Okay.
here, and uh, ukulele says that your style is so cute. How do you curate your style?
As far as like my clothes and stuff, I guess.
Your clothes, and maybe I
Clothes,
bet
makeup, hair. I
bet
don't.
that posts, your fashion posts is probably what this person's referring
Oh,
to too.
okay, yeah, yeah. So basically, like, I go through like these brainstorming ideas, and I'm just like, oh, let's see, what anime am I thinking about today, or like what's something like I'll go through. I'll even just kind of like look at my clothes and just be like, well, how do I do this? And so I'll find like I'll find an anime that I'm like, let's just do this because I like a lot of the characters in this, and so I used to spend, well, I don't right now because I'm still, trying to save money and things. But I used to just like just get like clothes and I'm like, well, I don't have something like this. Let me just like go order this or go do this. And so something so I kind of started doing this and it kind of made me start shopping like my closet again, as far as like, oh well, I never thought about wearing it this way, but this character inspired me to like wear this piece of clothing or this piece of clothing together, and I never had thought about that before. so
Mhm.
it so instead of just like, well, I don't even know what to wear with this, let me just get rid of it, I'm like, oh, actually, like so I feel like I'm almost getting a new wardrobe because I'm curating pieces that I never like thought about doing before, which I feel like is a little more sustainable instead of just like buying some things. But I'm like, well, I need to do this, or I'm bored of my clothes. Like,
Yeah.
um, so that has been a lot of fun. Is kind of like going to the character, and sometimes I'm like, well, I don't have anything like this. I'm like, Amanda, this is your post. Like, it doesn't even need to be the exact color. Like, it's inspired by. It's not the exact thing. Like, I'm not cosplaying these characters. I'm trying to put something together that's inspired by that character. And so yeah, it's really maybe kind of rethink how I dress and stuff.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I was wondering if you were purchasing this or if this was coming from your closet, you know.
Just from my closet, yeah.
So you did that whole like Eevee kind of series,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
What what brought that on? Were you playing Pokemon at the time?
No, I wasn't, but I was just trying. I was just like, I wanted to do something different on my Instagram versus just taking pictures and posting them and not really having anything to say, because people like actually want meaningful posts. So I'm just like, how do I do this? And so I had the idea of like the evolution, and I was like, oh, this is so cool. So it took me a while because I decided to like try to go to places like the element that the Eevee is. You know what I mean? And so that ended up taking a lot longer than I thought that it was going to. And trying to learn how to like edit the videos and make it look like, I don't know. And I had like my husband come with me, and I felt bad having to keep, hey, let's go take pictures of me. Hey, I need to go take a picture. Um, I noticed that like doing the reels and stuff, or the video, I didn't have to like rely on somebody else.
Mm,
Because I've taken like my DSLR out and put it on a tripod and put it on a timer, and it's just,
oh,
uh, and that does not work for me. It's an older DSLR, so I don't have like a connect. It doesn't even, the screen doesn't even pop out, so I can't even like see
yeah.
anything. And so yeah, so that's kind of like what started that. And so I wanted to just kind of like continue that, and I have been having a lot of fun doing the reels because I'm really into like transitions and stuff. Because those are so, I don't know, that's just so fun to me, is doing like trying to think up little transitions.
Do you have TikTok?
I do have a TikTok, and I actually have a ton of followers on that, but like I stopped getting a lot of views. And I try to post a little more like voice stuff, but like sometimes it's like 5 views. And I had one that's like 500,000. So I need to do more. I need to start doing TikTok more. But
I
I've had more, I don't know. My fashion related stuff does not do well on TikTok. Um,
It's so discouraging because it's like that. Like you can get like 500,000 views on something and then get like virtually none,
yeah.
literally virtually on something. And like, how do I fix? But the one that has like hardly any, it's like I thought that was pretty good content, you know?
Yeah, I've had some. I was like, dude, I spent like a couple hours on this one, and it's like nothing. And then here's one that I did in like 2 seconds, and it has like a ton. And I'm like, I didn't even think that one was good. I just needed to put something out.
TikTok. Anyway, back to some of your fashion posts. Every once in a while you'll do a post and kind of connect it to Kinoko from My Hero Academia, which I think is really neat because this kind of, maybe this is me. She's a very cute character, but I think she's kind of gross too because like the like mushrooms growing. It's like
The fungus.
oh freaky.
Yeah, no, she's a fungus, and I have just completely fallen in love with her. Like, I people keep asking me if I'm going to cosplay her, and I want to, but I like back in the day when I was like really really into cosplay, I used to be like, well, I can only cosplay like this character because I'm the same, like around the same height and build, so I don't do like the little lolly characters because they're, I don't have that look. But I mean, it's cosplays for anyone. It doesn't matter. Like if you love a character, just do it. So I really do need to cosplay her. Because I think
Like how you've got clothes or you find mushrooms somewhere out in public, and that
yeah,
inspired by a look. I think that's a really neat way to kind of portray her. So, but
Right.
what was it like? I mean, My Hero Academia is like kind of a game changer for voice actors. What was it like when you heard that you got a role on the show?
So I always say that my Kinoko role was accidental because I went in, let's see, I think it was back in season two, the first like cavalry battle. And so I went in and I just had went in for a walla session. So I went in to do background voices and like crowd voices and things like that. So a lot of those like are random when you go in. It's like, all right, who's next up in the booth? Who's the next like bit part that we have? And so like it just I matched up with this character and she didn't have a name at that point. I don't think she didn't have a name, so she was character 2B or something like that. And so coming back we found out that she had a name.
Mm,
And so this was like, I believe in season 3 when they were doing like a training in the forest when the villains came. Um, so she only had made like I don't know, reactions. She never like said anything. There was only reactions. And so when season 5 finally came around, I kind of knew what to expect because a friend of mine who was like way caught up on the manga when I found out that I had a name, and she was like, "Oh, who is it?" And I was like, "Her name's like Kinoko. I think she's like she apparently she's like mushroom." And she looked at me, and her eyes go wide, and she was like, "Girl, just wait." It was like 2 years later.
yeah.
And so when she told me that, I was like, all right, I need to do all this research. So I actually like I kind of spoil it for myself, but I wanted to know because I feel like when I become a character, like I need to know like the character. And so I did the research and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. So when it finally came around, I went in and I finally like heard her speak in the Japanese. And I was like, oh wow, she has a very, very high voice. And for the most part, I actually try my best to kind of match the tone of the Japanese when I'm trying to portray a character. And so, and I knew we had the reactions that I did were kind of like interesting. Like I had interesting with my voice because instead of, I think there was one where she said like, uh huh, and instead of going like, uh huh, it was more like, uh huh. And so I know we had already kind of like put kind of a weird tone to her voice. So when I went in, I was like, okay, Colleen, do we want to keep going quirky with her? Or do we want to go like with the Japanese and just do kind of the cutesy higher voice? So we decided to do more of the quirky, and I feel like it worked out. Like
Mm,
I don't know. She was very. It was very. It's a voice I had never really done before, obviously, um, because like before then I had only done like the like medium to deeper kind of more of the sexy characters, I guess. Because my voice, I don't even though it's so weird. Like I sing and I'm a soprano, like I'm very high, but like my talking voice sits naturally lower, I guess. And
mhm,
so I get cast like these lower characters, and so she was one of the first where it was like, oh, here's like actually a kind of a higher, more peppy, fun character. And don't get me
mm.
wrong, like I am thankful for any character I get. I don't care what they are. But I truly, truly, and like it was, I think I have a YouTube video uh out that I did on my YouTube just to like show, and it just happened that I was doing the one where I had to pronounce all the mushroom names. And I struggled pronouncing those mushroom names. Like it was not a one take with those. It was literally like, all right, I can't even say the rest of the line. Like, we're just going to stop and record you this. And then they would play it and I would like pick up after saying the name because I would forget because I had, like, I could say it in my head and say it. But then once I heard the beeps and got into her voice, I forgot it.
Mm. That sounds tough. I mean, it's kind of like an actor on a medical show, right? They have to shout all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Like, Colleen was literally like going on to Wikipedia and she would be playing like how to pronounce it. So I would hear it. She'd be like, I was like, just do it multiple times. I just need to hear it over and over again. So I'd listen and listen and listen, and then I would like say it.
Well, you know, it must have been fun playing that role since the voicing is so different. Like you're mentioning, kind of more sultry voices like Witch and Goblin Slayer. That's more in your wheelhouse, right? So it's nice to be stretched a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Which, and I think there's a smaller anime that I did, and I actually fell in love with her character, and I feel like she's kind of, well, she's not like Witch, but her voice was kind of like Witch, but I felt like I did it, not that I didn't do Witch well, which was her speech pattern was very interesting, and
Yeah.
you know, translating that slowness to her voice from Japanese to English, I know like that was a big challenge. And there are some that I wish I could just re-record that because I
Mm.
didn't like when you just are jump in and you don't know the character. I didn't even know who I was going to record for when I went in for that. So I didn't even have a chance to like look her up to see like why she does this, all this kind of stuff. So I just kind of like jumped into it and I was not prepared as much as I wanted to be. So, but the anime is called Hatina Illusion, and the character that I play is Mariah, and she's had the as far as like there's so many levels and layers to Mariah. So she has been probably other than Kinoko. Was just one of my favorites to voice ever, and that probably it's gonna be hard for someone to beat her. But Mariah had so many like levels and undertones to her, and I felt like I don't know. I felt like I really enjoyed the way I portrayed her, and it's a lot for me to say that because usually I'm like I could have done that better. I could have done that better. So I really enjoyed my portrayal of Mariah in that one, and I that show didn't get a lot of love, and it's actually a really good show.
So, what's the name of it again?
Hatina Illusion, and I don't know how to spell it. I'm very dyslexic, so
Let me, so basically, if you want to see the best of Amanda, go check out Hatina.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, other than Kinoko, I felt like my grasp on Mariah. I felt the closure. I felt you know you just feel a character.
Hmm.
So yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed a lot of people's work on that one.
Great, and I totally get you about Witch because you know I was watching some of Goblin Slayer just to watch your voice in the role, and she is very peculiar her speaking pattern. When you see like you know the flaps or whatever, when you see her speak, it's like who talks like that? It's just very like
Yeah,
oh man.
exactly. So we had to do a pretty much every session for that because you know when they write the scripts in English, you go on okay, so you know every flap is a syllable, so you have they have like the count for the words that they need to put in the sentence to match the flaps, and we still had to change the writing like to make it fit because it just was not working. It was very hard.
Yeah, that yeah that's looking for that in the character as I was watching. I was like, this is like impossible. It's tough.
Yeah, and it makes sense. So I remember I had some like fans like tweet and like give me theories. Like there's some theories out there of why she does that because I was just like wow. So like some of her theories is that and I can see both takes on it is like she you know she's spranked so high she's such a powerful witch or sorceress or you know whichever that she has to be careful with her words or she might accidentally like set a spell on someone and
Mm.
so that's why she talks slow. There's another theory that like she's just so smart and she has to talk slow so people can understand her.
Those
I'm
are
like
interesting.
I'll take both of those. Those are both very interesting.
You know, we're getting near the end of our time, so I'm just gonna, if you don't mind, just kind of toss up some of these questions that I got
Sounds good.
asked over. So Nippon Knickknacks, who's our friend Alexandra, she asks, for your TikTok, ever thought of duetting fans playing your character?
I do need to do that. I just don't know what to do in the duet, or just like react, I guess, maybe.
I don't know how that function really works, but I have seen a lot of stuff like that. They might definitely enjoy it. I don't know.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
she also asks, oh, I'm interested in this too. What's your favorite anime merch that you have? Do you
Oh,
have any, do you collect anything or you have any merchandise?
I do. I don't, I haven't spent a lot of money on it recently, but let me grab something. Some of my favorites, let's see. Um, Unfortunately, there's not a lot of merch of my characters out there, but I have
Oh,
several of Conan's. I love statues. I have a Ryuk that I
oh,
love. So like this, I love statues and things like that. And actually, my sister got me this for Christmas, and because I was like, all these old ones are coming back around, and it's Nisa.
hmm,
So I love statues. I love clothes. If I could, I don't know, clothes with like anime on it and stuff.
yeah,
So yeah,
cool.
love
Well,
it.
yeah, yeah, the figures of the series that really had an impact on you in your youth. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Um, so Alexandra, by the way, followed up saying that other voice actors will sometimes use the iconic, or other VC will sometimes use the iconic characters lines. So I don't know, something to think of when you're duetting, if you duet in the future.
Yeah.
Um, let's see, Kawaii Heart, who's this is also one of our followers. Her name is Jess. Asks, have you been in any romance anime?
That is a good question. Have I?
There's so many, right? You gotta think, well, hmm.
No, I've actually, so a lot of the things, sometimes what how it works is like, oh, okay, so you got your session done here. Let's go see if any directors need you. Sometimes you could go to like two or three directors and just do like one or two little bits for them and
Uh,
not what anime you're in. So there's even some credits where I'm like, huh, I didn't even know I recorded for
you're right.
that.
I was in that series. That's funny. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and close up our time together. We went,
Yeah.
everyone out there, please follow Amanda. We didn't get to this, but if you follow her YouTube, especially, you'll get to see some K-pop stuff. I think you recently did a Red Velvet.
Yeah,
Um,
I did an English version and we did the dance to it. So the singing was all me, and then my friends did the dance with me, or like a full on music video, and that was
yeah, no, seriously, check this out. This is not like doing the dance. This is a music
yeah,
video.
full on music video. Yeah,
Played in it, the dance moves and the different scenes. It was like, wow, this is a real production.
I know. I just like I. That's like one of my goals is just like to do that, but like not having to do it myself.
Well, it came out really nicely, so check that out. Definitely check her out. So this is going to be those of you watching later on. This on YouTube, so just move on over there and check that out. I'll throw up links in the captions below. If you're following us right now, make sure that you're following Amanda on Instagram. She's also on Twitter as Master Gish. So
Yeah, exactly the same. So
both there. So, and then on YouTube, you can just search her up and you'll find her as well. So, thank you. Thank you for joining me today. It was so nice speaking
yeah, it was so nice to meet you.
and talk about Lord of the Rings. I wanted to talk about Two Towers and all sorts
Oh,
of stuff. Another time. Another
another
time.
time. I'm down.
For sure. So, everyone, definitely follow Amanda. Follow us if you haven't followed. And thank you for joining us today, everyone out there. We appreciate it. And we will see you again. God bless. Take care, everyone.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.